Hello and welcome back to Elevated Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Raylen Davis. Today I got a banger for you. I've never said the word banger before, but today's a good day to start. Today we're talking about how AI is reshaping digital marketing and giving a blueprint to the online business owner, the online entrepreneur. You coaches out there, agency owners, if you want to better leverage AI, I got an awesome guest today. My guest today is Elisa Boyd. Elisa and I go back, in the digital space, it's 5 years, right? Which isn't like a lifetime, but in the digital space, I feel like it is.
Yeah.
It's forever.
Yeah.
And you're someone who obviously have always been really good at marketing. You've been essentially my company's CMO for a long time. In fact, our marketing would probably be even better if I just got out of your way and let you do what you do best. But anyway, you've been on the kind of forefront of AI and how you leverage it for businesses. So that's why you're here today. Welcome, my good friend, Elisa Boyd.
Thank
What
you.
up?
Not much. I think too what's wild about like 5 years feels like a long time is because we met, like I had started this business. Like before this, I had like a brick and mortar location where we did like healthy foods, cold pressed juices and stuff. And in that era, I started that in 2014. And that's when like, I feel like everybody in my sphere was starting a business because it just became so much easier. Not, I went to school for business, not digital marketing, but the ability, excuse me, to like build a website, social media, get your business out there, like totally changed everything. So when we closed that business and then in 2020, I started doing this because that's what I found I actually liked. So that was the only part I liked. I met you the year after. And it's like, even from, 2020 or 2014, call it to 2020 to now, the landscape from social media marketing has changed so much, but also it hasn't. Like there are the old faithful techniques and strategies and things that just will never change because it's based on human behavior, but the tech has just gone at like light speed to a whole different planet. So
I feel like, would you say like what we do in marketing hasn't really changed much, but how we deliver that marketing has changed
exactly.
dramatically. The
Yeah.
platforms, the softwares, the AIs. And I think the reason why I was excited to do this too is because I think business owners in particular get really bogged down with tech. And also why we'll talk about probably more why you and I have kind of joined forces over the years to help entrepreneurs is because you get so much tech. There's so many voices out there and what you should do and all this stuff. And it gets really noisy really fast. And so sometimes it helps to streamline that a little bit. Obviously, when you had your juice business, by the way, I always get confused when you send me invoices and I'm like, who the hell is trying to ask me for money? And then I'm like, oh, I forgot about the juice business. But when you're doing the juice business, it sounds like the marketing aspect of that juice business is what you were like super stoked on. And then that's obviously what you carried on.
Yeah, it was creating that life, like creating the brand, right? The visuals, what it looked like, how we communicated it. Right, it was like the brand voice, all those pieces, things I didn't even realize I was doing or I was so inspired by. I think back and I'm like, I literally could have picked any product and I would have done the same thing of what I enjoyed doing. But it was, what I found really interesting is it's a physical product. It has a 4 or 5 day shelf life. It's kind of a crazy business, and the entire time I was like, how can we optimize the website? How can we get more people in our world? How can I reach more people that don't just live locally? And even at the very beginnings, like I was like, oh, once somebody buys like a juice cleanse, we can get them in on an email automation and start, promoting other products, physical products we have, or you know what I mean? It was like my brain was already going there, and so it felt like such a natural step into doing what I'm doing now. And again, like I said, the crazy thing is, not the basic principles are still there. Still how you have your ideal client, you create that and you tap into their pain points and you tap into their dreams and create content around that to bring them into your world. But the big difference now is like to get all of that work done. And I think of like the hours spent like building the website, building landing pages, building like product descriptions, labeling, mock-ups, all this stuff. I'm like, you can have that done in an afternoon now because of tools like AI, which is crazy.
Well, even like the simple things of like the podcast, for example, like getting the YouTube description would take me so long because I was like thinking through it, or like the podcast description, I was like, I don't even know what to say about this. It was just, But now, literally in an afternoon, there's a reason why I film and I launch the podcast the same day. Is a lot of it is because of AI helps me edit the videos faster and all of that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like gives you the superpower. However, I think the other thing is in the wrong hands, it doesn't work as well. So there is a drastic difference between when I use AI and when you do it. And there's a reason why when we work together, I'm like, Elisa, can you just do this? Like, we have the same tool,
Yeah.
but when I wield it, it's dog shit. Talk to me about like how did you figure out how to use the right prompts? I know it's prompts, but like I don't understand why it doesn't listen to me. It doesn't do what I want it to do.
And I think that's what a lot of people run into when I talk to them, like, oh, well, like I've tried it, or like I kind of use it, but it's like never really works for me. And I always love the analogy of, and I think this might have been Gary Vee, farmers. It's like when the tractor came out, it was like, this is gonna ruin farmers whenever, it's gonna get rid of that industry or that specialty. And it's like, no. Just the farmers who decided to use a tractor just like surpass the guys who decided not to. And so you can't, and this is one of my frustrations, is because the tools are so easy, often people think that they can do it and you can't. Or like you still have to learn. Like there's still so much that goes into it and you need that human input. So, not that business owners can't, but they can't just like jump in feet first and expect to get the results that somebody who has been in the industry of marketing for a while. It does start with like basic prompts, but it again goes back to understanding basic marketing fundamentals, understanding the marketing funnel, understanding messaging. These are all key principles that you can use a robot to do or you can do it, but if you can't discern what's landing and what's going to reach your audience, I don't care that you could write a book in 20 minutes. It's not going to be very good. And that kind of goes to like following trends or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I always like to reel it back to the basics.
I also I think it really shouldn't be used by business owners. And I know this is kind of a weird take, but like, here's why. You shouldn't, if you're a business owner like me, you shouldn't use it because I over-index done more than good. So like, for example, if I'm just trying to get like to your point, like I'll build a whole like new offer in a day, email sequences and all, but like the email sequences aren't good because I just don't care. I just want them done. Half the time I don't even proofread them.
I'm not mad at that though.
Yeah. But when you do it, yeah, sure, it takes longer. But it actually is you can read it and you get something out of it. It's a totally different thing. And then you have business owners, which I don't do because I also have I'm not an artist, but I'm also have this weird thing about content. Like I feel like it needs to come from me. But then you go on LinkedIn specifically and these people I'm like, bro, I know you're using ChatGPT for this. Like there's no emotion in this at all. And so again, but they over-index. Well, I'm just going to do a bunch of content. Mm-hmm. Well, again, I know Gary Vee tells you to post 25,000 times in a day, but like if it's all shit, then you might as well not do it.
Yeah, I think that is like such a fine line to walk because so many people that I work with too just don't start because they're like I'll always say, I was like, it's the doers, it's the people who just get out there and try. But I think now the idea is that I always say like use AI to get you 90% of the way there. And then you got to finesse the last 10. So even you, it's like you get all this done, but then you just tap it on me to like finesse the last 10, right? Yeah. And I think that's the difference between like the LinkedIn 20,000 posts that go up and people who actually, I purposefully, like this is one of my hot tips is like I will ask ChatGPT for like trends or like things going on in the market or like based on this pain point, tell me this. And then I almost see if there's a way to influence the opposite, because it's going to take what's available on the internet. And if you want to be ahead or you want to stand out, if you can put your own personal spin on it or go against the grain, then that's right. That's a way to use ChatGPT to help you with brainstorming, get you to an idea, but that's, intrinsically more from you, like you said.
Yeah. Is there what tools are you kind of hype on right now when it comes to AI and helping you with marketing? What tools are you playing around with right now? Because every time I talk to you, like, oh, I got a new thing and it does this amazing. I'm like, bro, how many freaking
things
are we working with them?
And that's the other thing too. I find funny. People are like, there's all these AI tools. I don't know where to start. And I'm like, most of them are just based on like a ChatGPT framework. I don't actually know if that's true, but that's what it feels like.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, that's what I hear. But I like, because I still use ChatGPT, and the fact, like, this is always like makes me think of a sci-fi movie where like my chat knows me so well that, you know, I'll go in there for anything, and it knows enough about my business because it has a memory that it will help me work through problems or create things so fast. I also like tag team with Claude because Claude AI is way better at writing. It just makes things sound more like a human. So I use both, but I have a lot of clients, and clearly chat can't remember all of their information or like pull from it when I specifically want to. So that's where I tag in Poppy AI, which is like a whiteboard, and you can drop in websites, YouTube videos, all the information you need, and you can attach it to a chat conversation. So for me, as a bit of an agency owner with clients, that's like, it just saves me so much time and organization.
I have noticed to that point, ChatGPT only can hold so many. Like I have a channel specifically for one client because I do a lot of their like YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
But what I found is more than 3, it starts to like blend them, and then you're like, oh, that's not my voice.
Yeah, and when you start trying to get brand voice going and you have too many different people in there, it's like, yeah, it gets confused.
Is there a thing that like in doing this, what have you found for the most part has changed the way that you do digital marketing now that you have AI? Like what's the biggest difference from before AI to today? Because again, what I find most impressive, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but like I've always been impressed with your brand and super jealous of it. Your carousel posts lately have been just bangers, and they like look great, and I'm like always like, man, all my shit's dog shit compared to Elisa. But again, I know you use AI, and it's like still on brand. It still fucking sounds great. Still looks amazing. Like, yeah, how have things changed for you since you started using AI?
The biggest bottleneck I always used to have was writing copy. It just would take me a really long time to write copy. I remember working like with you a couple of years ago before chat came out, and I think we were looking at hiring a copywriter because I was like, you need a sale page, that's slowing me down. I can tell you what I need in each spot, but it's just taking me forever to get the words out. So for me, it's big on the copywriting, but then there's things like carousel posts where it's like, you cannot AI that. I've tried, you know, a million different ways. But you also, I think it's really important to lean into what you enjoy doing. Like I enjoy making those look really creative, and I think it helps me stand out. But there's no format that's going to help you grow more just because it's that format. Because you and I both know there's people who do like just talking head videos, absolutely nothing fancy, and their accounts blow up. It's because they are genuine in the content they're speaking on, and that's why it works. So it's like you have to find your lane. But for me, it's like the ideation and having it rooted in my strategy, right? Like again, chat knows who my ideal client is. It knows the offers I'm trying to promote. It knows my belief system, that when I go to create a carousel post on said topic, it can like nail it and basically nail my brand voice now. So getting the framework of things done, again, getting me to 90% done, it goes there. And then I get to enjoy the creation process of what it looks like. That's been like the biggest game changer for me.
Is there anything that like, do you get the sense that eventually AI is gonna, well, where do you see this going in the next like 3 to 5 years? Is like AI going to be so much the digital space that like becomes obvious and annoying? Because already, like, it's not apples to apples, but I look at like the digital, you know, those weird people that resell courses. We talked about this, like, but they all have the same stock footage, right? Like, and you could tell it's all like AI made, and it's like, are we going to see more of that in the next 5 years, and it's going to get ridiculous, or where do you kind of see things going?
Yeah, it's for sure going to saturate the market. It's already like you said, it's already happening. You can see the things, you know, when it's AI. Like, there's little things you can pick up on. But it always reminds me of this Mad Men episode. I don't even know if you've watched this yet. I've told you a million times to watch it. Yeah?
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
And again, like it's set in the 50s, but they all are like big agencies for cigarette companies. And all of a sudden they come out and the doctors are like, you can't, you know, promote cigarettes in this style, da da da. And they're all like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And then Don Draper, who I love, says something like, you know, if we have this problem, everybody has this problem. So how can we do it differently? And that's just it. It's like, if everybody's using AI, how can you, that's like, it's a known fact. So the special quality you have is making it as personal as possible, which it shouldn't be hard to add your own opinions and influence on it. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that are going to start standing out. is, and the thing is, if you can learn to mesh both of them, that's when you'll like take off. Because I think there's still like, I met somebody the other weekend who was like, yeah, try that chat GPT. And he's like, is that what it, I don't even think he said it right. And I was like, oh my God, there's people who have not like still not even tried it. They have no idea how to use it. So there'll be a big division in it, but it's just going to become more vast. And I think it's just going to shift behaviors, right? Like we've talked, like how people search for things. Like I don't really Google things anymore because I know I'll get my answer faster if I chat it, or if I want to compare products. I do that all the time.
Yeah, I even noticed on my iPhone, Siri now integrates. So if you ask the question as a no, it'd be like, hey, I'm going to go ask ChatGPT. And you're like, wait, what?
I just got the update, so I don't know.
Yeah. I was kind of blown away by that. And yeah, I think I told you this a while ago. I went to this, oh my God, forgive me. I forget his name. I'm drawing a blank at his name right now. But I went to this thing through Genius Network. Mike Koenig's. Mike Koenig's is his name. Automation something. It was this really good program that he was putting on because he has this really great offer where he'll help people that have sold businesses, apparently, like, which totally makes sense. Once they sell their business, they forget who they are. They're like, I don't even know what to do, right? And so he helps them come up with their own offer and launch their personal brand. But he does it in like a week. And so he'll sit down with you for a week and then just launch an entire brand with like content, your offers, all that stuff. But he uses all AI. So he broke down kind of how he's doing it. And the thing that I kind of realized like at that meeting, and I think I told you this, and this is something that, again, I think you and I will probably end up launching together because we launch everything together these days, is like the fractional AI. I forgot the title of it. It was like a fractional chief automation officer. And it was like, or AI officer. And it was like companies have freaking no idea how to leverage it. Mm-hmm. And having someone like you come in and be like, hey, I've already tested all these different tools. You don't need to test anymore. Here's the thing you need to do. Like I think about like some of these bigger companies, for example, because they're afraid of AI. And it's funny. I had this company tell me once, they're like, well, we don't use AI right now because we know that we're putting all our information out there and then people are going to be able to get our intellectual property. And I'm like, bro, they already got it. Like, I don't know what you're worried about. Like,
there's that, and even now, if you upgrade and pay, I think it's like the $200 fee, whatever, that subscription, your information's locked down. It doesn't share it.
Yeah, and that's what they say, but it's probably already out there. Like, bro, like what intellectual property are you really? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's all regurgitated anyway.
Yeah.
But for example, like use motion is something that did I put you on that or did you put me on that?
I put you on that.
Okay, I was trying to get some
a Notion. You were going to do a Notion workflow because that's one of the other tools I'm obsessed with. And then I've seen so many ads for it, almost to the point where I didn't trust it. I was like, they're promising too much. I don't believe it. But I was getting buried with work. I could not stay on top of my work. I was like, I need a system. Time blocking in my Google Calendar is an absolute joke because I get derailed all the time and I spend most of my time moving my blocks around. And then freaking Motion does it all for you.
Bro, I spent all this money to build this like dashboard for the team, and it was kind of working, but also not. Like I liked some aspects of it, but it just wasn't, to your point, that it wasn't there. And then we find you introduced me to Use Motion, and then how obsessive I get. That weekend, right, I just build all of our stuff in there, and I'm like, holy crap, because for those that don't know, Use Motion does this amazing thing where you put in the projects, it creates all the tasks, and then it puts it in your calendar. Now, if you don't get it to it that day or whatever, it'll move it to another slot you have open. It just moves things around for you. So it's like a little AI assistant in your Google Calendar. But then if it's like a hard deadline, it won't move. And you have this annoying thing that's like past due, like you got to get this done. So like already like it's helping you be more productive, but also it helps the team and me. So like someone that's like managing, not really managing, but like looking at all the products we have, I can see, oh, I'm not going to bug Elisa on this thing because I can see it in her calendar. She's getting into it today, so I'm not going to bother her about it. And then if you're someone like me, I have 15 calendars that like I manage, so it like helps bring it all kind of together. I'm obsessed with it. And the funny thing is, again, that's like an example of AI, and these companies have freaking no idea that it exists.
Yeah.
Because they're so kind of like doing it the old way. And I heard this interesting kind of stat that I think the reason why, again, as much as I try to get away, I've gotten away from the agency. I keep coming back to it because there's huge opportunity with the baby boomers that have these companies that were like all on paper and spreadsheets, and they're passing the torch down or selling their companies to younger people who are like, yo, I'm using AI, I'm using tech, I'm using CRMs, I'm using these things, but I need someone that knows how to do it better than me. Then that's where I think there's going to be a huge opening, I think, for a lot of different agencies. And it just brings down the cost, honestly. Like,
Yep.
I had my buddy Ken Cook on here. We're talking through agency stuff, and he's kind of pivoting, not out of agency work, but kind of, because the profit margin on agencies is so small. He said it's like on average 6% profit margin, which is like, makes total sense. Like, you remember when we launched ours, made all this money, but then I looked at my bank account, I'm like, bro, why am I not making money? Like, I don't understand what's happening right now, because we had so many people. But with AI, you and I, we could be a 2-person agency and we're going to make more than we did when we had 8 people. And it was like, my freaking payroll was like 20 grand a month.
Yeah.
Which is like, but it's because of AI. You know, I think we launched a little too soon. We should have waited until AI and then launched.
Well, you learn a lot of we learned a lot of lessons, because again, like, AI can only go do so much, but you definitely become the biggest thing is more efficient. So, you know, even the people have that fear, like it's going to take over jobs or people are going to lose work from this. It's like, no, we're just going to be more efficient at what we're doing.
Well, the shitty people will.
Well, yeah, and they should have been weeded out in the first place.
Yeah, and well, it's also too, it's like there's some people that use again, we'll take you for example. I'll send you, like, we got to do a sales page or something, and I'll send you a voice note. I know you're using AI, but still the time, because you have the skill set, the time it takes for you to use AI and kick out the sales page using my voice note is way faster than if I do it. Because I'll do the voice note, I sent the chat. I did it the other day because ChatGPT has the voice note thing.
Yeah.
And so I sent her, at least my ChatGPT is a girl. So I sent her the thing, and it kicked out something shitty. And I was like, I ended up sending it to you anyway. I'm like, again, it goes back to the thing that's fascinating about this. It's the same exact tool, but just depends on who wields it. You get better results.
Yeah.
And I think she just likes you more than me.
Maybe. You got to be nice. I'm always nice to my AI. I always say,
maybe I'm not nice enough. Maybe that's what it is.
Right? Sometimes I get that answer where it's like, I cannot do this. I'm like, yes, you can. Just please try a little bit harder. And then they do it. It's like really bizarre.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
I know you can do this.
Yeah. You came out with recently the marketing matrix. I thought it was about the matrix, and it's not. So I will say I was a little disappointed.
Sorry.
But I think it's a great tool. I think I've seen you talk about it before. Walk me through what it is and how people online entrepreneurs are leveraging it right now.
Yeah. I've created a lot of tools, and this one definitely got the most interest. And I think it blends, again, traditional marketing theory and strategy and then we throw it into the new world. So essentially, the matrix just breaks down, it's your marketing funnel, right? Everybody knows, right? Top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel. And it really came from my own issue, my own revelation, that I was looking at my page. We've been in this sphere for so long. You kind of forget that not everybody... Are you okay? That's what I say to my kids, they go down the wrong tube.
Yeah, I almost just died. Continue, sorry.
So when we're experts in our sphere, the great thing about this is this applies to any type of business, physical product, service-based, digital, anything like that, is we get so far down in our world that we forget people have no idea what we do. And I was doing this, I looked at my content and I was like, wow, everything in there is like pretty in depth. And, you know, why is somebody else in my world who's over here doing really well? And the big difference is they are creating more content for top of the funnel. And that's like, I think when you're an expert in the world, at least for me, I felt like I would do a disservice by like just giving a little piece at the top. I was like, but there's so much more they need to know. But the problem with that is a lot of people aren't ready for that. A lot of people don't even know, they're not even searching for a problem, that they don't even know they have like the issue, or, you know, they're not ready for all of that. And so what this matrix does is it really outlines what your ideal client's problem is at the top of the funnel and how that kind of information should show up, which is usually like, you see it, it's like controversial hooks, behind the scenes, things that people are gonna just catch their attention. And realistically, that should be about 50% of your content. And that's social media, really, because that's how people discover you, is through social media. So that's the top of the funnel content that we need to be making that we're not. Then you get into the middle, which, 25, 30%, and then the bottom of the funnel is 20%. The cool thing with this matrix is that it outlines the type of content you should be making at each level. And so basically you can go into your chat and outline, even if you've never used ChatGPT before, go in and say, this is my website. Or not, even if you don't have a website, this is the business I want to do. This is the problem I want to solve for people. Can you ask me a bunch of questions to help me figure out my ideal client? Chat will do that all for you. And then once you're there, this is like a really easy 1, 2, 3, process. Upload the PDF and say, based on this matrix, can you help me create hooks, content, whichever piece you want of it for each phase of the funnel? And it'll like crush it all out for you. So I think that's such a great spot for if you have a business and you're feeling annoyed with social media because you don't feel like you're growing or reaching people, there's a really good chance you're creating content that's more middle funnel that is going over people's head. And this tool kind of brings you back up to the surface of like, oh yeah, these things that I feel like are kind of fluffy or really not, I'm way deeper in my business now, people still need to know about that. And so for me, it was kind of a game changer with my content.
I telling a story kind of on my newsletter recently how I talked to these consultants and they're all like seasoned professionals, and they're executive consultants, so they work primarily with like CEOs and large companies. And so I was kind of given this task of in 15 minutes explain to them everything they need to know about like at the online space. And which, by the way, was crazy because I went from like literally branding. I talked about branding, lead generation, automation, and then their sales process in 15 minutes. Which, by the way, I went over 15 minutes, way over 15 minutes. But it was a good try. And so I'm explaining everything, and part of the talk was around lead magnets and the purpose of them and how to think through them. And I stopped for questions. And this guy, who, by the way, who's been a consultant literally for like 20, 30 years, stops and goes, hey, what's a lead magnet? And I go, holy shit. Like I completely but it makes sense because a lot of these consultants, when you get to that level, you're not getting cold leads coming in. It's all you worked with a CEO. They're on the board of another company. That other company's CEO needs coaching. So hey, why don't you use my coach, right? Like, they don't really, not that they don't need it, they can't benefit from it, but that's not something they think about all the time. And so I think you're right, like this matrix and helping you think come up to the surface a bit, could definitely help. I make that mistake all the time of like talking too much about the nitty gritty that honestly, like, unless you're in it, like you don't really care all that much.
Well, it's just not, it's overwhelming. And like I said, then you're talking to people who already know they have a problem, they're trying to find a solution. And that's like, yeah, there's people out there for sure, but you're just missing a huge audience of people that you could potentially help. And again, when you're the expert in it, it is really hard to like go back to, okay, who am I trying to reach and what's like one problem I can solve for them? And I think that's when we all start out, things are really fun and we're getting traction and it's going. It's because we are all at the top, but then when you've been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years, you're like, oh my God, I've been saying this forever. But that's like, that is a good thing. You should be repeating yourself, obviously adjust it and you're growing, but like I've been saying the same stuff for 5 years, essentially, like my kind of.
Yeah, I think the hard part too is like you get tired of it, and that's why like I think right now I'm in this weird space with content because I'm tired of hearing me talk about whatever. So it's like this weird thing of like my audience probably could benefit from it, but I personally just get bored, and so I don't want to do it. Which is why like we're launching like our ad campaign. Is the hope is that way I don't have to keep making organic content about stuff, and I can just have ads running, and then I don't have to think about it. Like that's like because I'm tired of talking about it. But I will say, I mean, I don't know what advice would you give someone to me like this? Because you've yelled at me about this for a long time. When you have a disconnect between what you enjoy talking about and what you do. So like, for example, this, I'm kind of woo and I love talking about mindset. Like I love talking about self-improvement. I love talking about business, but from a different angle of like whatever. But the way that you and I make money is by helping people build out efficient sales processes, right? And then actual funnels and marketing and that kind of thing. So how can AI, or how could the way that you look at marketing, because your whole thing is like holistic marketing, I still remember, right? How can we blend the two together and not drive ourselves crazy? Because if I have to make another piece of content that says, here's what's wrong with your sales process, I'll probably die inside, a slow death.
Well, okay, oddly enough, this is not odd at all, but what I find shocks people, I was like, I would go to chat and literally say what you just said. And I've done this recently because I was feeling that way. I was like, I want to do this, but I also like doing this, and I really like this, and I like this, and I don't know how to move forward and bring all these pieces together. So I put that all in my chat and I said, ask me as many questions as you need to help me find clarity. Right. And so it was like it was like kind of like talking to a coach of, it would ask like what my priorities are, what do I, a myriad of questions that help me find, like I go to chat for almost everything now, and it helps get so much out of my brain. And again, it just helps things move forward so you don't feel stuck. Because personal advice would be like doing what inspires you and again, what you love, and people will want to work with you because they see themselves in you, right? And there's probably a lot of conversations you could have around your mindset in past sales scenarios. So you're kind of talking about sales, but you're coming at it from a mindset angle. And then finding a method that you like to create, like the podcast, right? You enjoy doing it, so you're going to book it and you're going to get it done. If I was like, no, go create 10 carousel posts for me, you would be like, get fucked.
There's no chance that's happening.
No chance that's happening. So that's how, right? It's like use chat to help you find clarity, because like journaling is really helpful because you get I'm sure there's science behind it. I know there is. I just don't know what it is. But physically writing stuff down, you write all the time. Even putting that in chat and be like, I enjoy writing daily. How can I help this like move the needle in my business that's actually related to this? Because a lot of times we just need like a sounding board with a bit of more information to help us find clarity. I've actually found it's like I use it like I wanted to figure out my own personal style in my wardrobe. I went to chat. I was like, ask me questions to help me figure out like what pieces I need in my wardrobe. Like I use it for everything.
There was something that you told me a while ago, and it was such a small thing that like kind of blew my mind because it changed completely the way that I use AI, which was have it ask you questions, which I had never done before. It was all like, hey, I need this thing. And they would kick it out and I wouldn't be happy with it, but I was like, all right, whatever. It's just all I could do. But being like, hey, this is the task. Ask me any follow-up questions you have to help you complete the task. And I was like, wait, like, I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah.
It was like completely changed everything.
The biggest thing, right? Like a lot of people talk about using the right prompts and prompt engineering. That's huge. Well, if you're not a prompt engineer, just reverse it. And that's what asking questions is, because it needs context. It's going to give you a general answer when you ask a general question. We've heard that before. So how do you get a more specific answer? You get it to ask you for the information it needs to give you a more specific answer back. And it's incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
So I ask it to ask.
If you use it right, what are your thoughts on like, because obviously when you came up, you hired some coaches along the way, and do you think ChatGPT for you is gonna get rid of some of this coaching industry that we're seeing today?
Again, like you said, I'll get rid of the shitty coaches. Hopefully. But I think I always say this. It's like ChatGPT doesn't have personal experience. I think I've realized this year that after like buying so many programs and doing all these things, it's like I've hit a point now where I'm like, hey, let's just see what you're made of and get out there and do it. I'm like, I'm not allowed to buy anything. I also think that's because of chat. It's like I love consuming information and learning and trying new things, and chat allows me to do that without investing thousands of dollars on courses and programs. But they still have a place, especially, again, this is I've spent thousands of dollars on that stuff in the last 5 years. If you're just starting out, it's a great place to start from a human who's had an experience. But now where I'm at, I think it would take somebody to like really level me up. And then I would probably invest again, because I don't think chat's able to replicate that, but I definitely think it'll shift it if people know to use it.
Yeah, I agree. I also think I like the mindset of like, I'm going to, so recently I bought this guy Justin Welch's course, but like I made this rule where I'm not going to, because I bought it because I wanted to support. Right now, granted, the dude makes millions of dollars every year. He doesn't need my support, but it was just I engage in a lot of his content, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I just, I think he's a smart dude, so I wanted to invest in him. But I made this rule of like I'm going to post. I think it was like 90 days on LinkedIn, and then I'm going to open up the LinkedIn OS system because it was like once I do it myself and I see the results, good or bad, then I have context to be able to do it. It's like the course that we just launched, the high ticket enrollment system. If you don't have a high ticket offer, buying that course is not going to help you. But if you bought the course and then made a goal of like, I'm not going to hit the play button on it until I launch my thing and then see the holes in my game, like that's probably a better path. But where ChatGPT comes in, I think it is going to get rid of some of the bad coaches out there. But also just like anything else, I feel like it also has endless information, which also will probably limit your ability to like execute.
People will always pay for organization and implementation. And that I remember listening to somebody quite a few years ago about like, that idea of like share everything, don't hold anything back. You don't need secrets, because especially now with chat, like it's more true now today than it was then, because all the information you need is on the tip of your fingers. But people will always, and I think that's why we keep falling back to an agency, even myself. Last year at this time, I was like, no more one-on-one clients. Now I have a roster of like 15. And it's because people will pay for implementation every day. I could sit here and be like, I'll tell you exactly what to do for half the price. And be like, no, I just want to pay you to do it for me, please.
Yeah.
And then there are people that are like, no, give me steps A through Z, because when I chat it, there's steps A through Z and 1 to 3 and X, Y, and I can't organize my thoughts. So people always pay for that. But another tip that I love using AI for now with the course world is somebody could buy the course, take the information, and if you've already created things in your chat, I do this all the time now with past courses I've bought, I take the strategy, I dump it into chat if it's like a transcription or something, and I say, take the theories from this program, take this strategy and apply it to my business and give me a roadmap. Right? So instead of like sitting through courses and watching things, or even like finishing the course and be like, hey, now what? It just helps you can, again, get to that 90%. Okay, it did all the work for me. Now I get to implement that 10%. Like that's huge.
Yeah. I with this course, another kind of way that AI helped was that like I had launched a course prior to this years ago. And the part that took me the longest wasn't recording the content. It was the stupid descriptions. And then like the stuff, the supplement, docs that goes along with it. I'm not months, right? I probably could have launched it, and it was a short course, right? And it still took me forever. This time around, I told you that I did it in 2 days.
Yeah.
And it was because I could record the course. Then I took the transcript of that course, put it in ChatGPT, and then was like, hey, give me like basically the too long to read version of this for the description, and then give me a doc that breaks down exactly what they need to do step by step based on what I said. And so literally in 2 days, I created a whole ass course, which last time I did it took me months to do.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, right? It's like you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it so much faster. And AI can't, like, no, Joe Schmo couldn't walk into ChatGPT and replicate exactly what you did, because again, you bring your own personality, your own feelings, your own human experience to it. Chat just gets you there like 10 times faster.
Yeah.
And to the things, like you said, goes all the way back to the beginning of our conversation. Done is better than perfect, in a sense of you could have fussed over that description for the Kajabi, whatever. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. You just need something in there. You can go back and finesse it. But it's like, historically, that, like so many entrepreneurs like myself, it's like that would have been such a big barrier to get over, to be like, oh, I gotta write that description to get this done and launch it. Where it's like, sometimes with my clients, I get frustrated because they do get really nitpicky about things. And I'm like, nobody cares. Sorry. Yeah. Nobody cares. They are going to see this and they're going to move on. They have like the memory span of a goldfish. It's better done that it's in there. At least then too, you can test it, right? Then you gather more information about what's going to work and what's not. So
I think it takes a long time to figure that out though. Like,
I will say
yeah, like I I don't know. I get confused sometimes on what came first, but like I feel like I've always been just get it out and figure it out and then do it better next
Yeah,
time.
that's probably how you operate.
I think I've always been, but the more I do it, the more I double down on it. Because I think the first, again, I just did another newsletter on this. When I first launched my first company ever, was called New Vision Leadership, and my idea was that I was actually, because I have a huge love for the education space, and so I wanted to do something in that kind of field, and so I was going to be a consultant in that field. And it took me, like, I was working on it for a year. I even had a little board. You know, we were designing website. We were like, for a year, just nothing came out. I was making content, like, by the way, it was crap. Like, I spent more time figuring out what the logo was going to be, and I like bought like a polo with like the logo on it and shit. Like, I spent more time on that than I did like launching. And then when I changed and started focusing more on like coaching and got out of that space, then was when I was like, I'm gonna launch with like nothing. So like the course, for example, I launched with the first lesson in there, and I still sold it. Right? I was like DMing people and was like, hey, I got this thing. If you wanted it, would you buy it? Kind of situation. And that seemed to work like a hell of a lot better. But what, again, to your point, we do get clients that are so bogged down in the, well, it needs to be perfect before I launch. And you and I both are very much like, let's go and test. There's, like, for example, I mean, I'm leaving in a couple weeks. I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks. And I literally told you and the person that's running our ads, I was like, hey, I'm giving you guys money, and then like I'm planning on losing it all. So like, just make sure when I get back, like, we have a plan. But like, that's the mentality I have now versus so many people get so bogged down and never launch shit. And then they're like, oh yeah, I can't, my business didn't work. It's not that it didn't work. It's just that you didn't launch anything. So there's nothing to test. You get no data back. Yeah. Like, I'd rather make the wrong step and learn something than to not do anything.
Oh, yeah. I did that for a long time. I'd launch like a program and I'd get like, 3 or 4 people would sign up, and I'd be like, feel like a loser, because online you see everybody was like, hundreds of people have joined my course. And then I wouldn't launch again. And it's like, it's not that it didn't work. We just need to continue to build on it. And I didn't. And that, like, again, goes back to this where I'm like, okay, don't make anything new. You have a lot of good things that are helpful and has been proven to be helpful. Just like grow on it. But yeah, people get, or people are like, I have this program and it's going to be great. We have to get all these details. I'm like, you got to get people to the door. People don't even know that you have a program. You could have the best program in the entire world, but if you can't even get people to your sales page, it doesn't matter. And I really learned that with the juice shop, of like, in a little bit of the context of, if you're not making money, I don't care how beautiful the store is, how good our juice is, all these things, how much community we've built. Like, that stuff all is important. But at the end of the day, number one, you got to make money. And you're not going to make money if you're just sitting there fine tuning your offer. You just got to put it out there.
Yeah.
I think that's why you've continued to be successful, is like you just go.
Yeah, but this is why I think, and this kind of brings me to one of the last things I want to talk to you about, is having people kind of in your corner, like partners. Because like for you, for example, like having you around has helped. Because like, for example, I launch things so often that literally recently we've been rethinking kind of what we wanted to offer, and then the way that like you and I are going to work together. And I found these lead magnets that I didn't even remember creating. And I was like, hey, this is good. Why don't I launch this? But again, this brings me to the kind of the next thing is like, for you, what has the experience been partnering instead of doing on your own? Because you and I now, I think seriously, we've been working together for what, like a year or two? Because even before when we were doing the agency, you're just handling one aspect of the business. Yeah. Whereas today, like, you and I have plans of like really making a collaborated fucking offer, which when I first started, so this is my kind of experience with it, and I want to hear from you. I thought it had to be all me. Like, it has to be all me, whatever. And then I read this book, Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan, who I talk about that book all the time. And then I realized I can only go so far by myself, because I have so many holes in my game, and I could spend the next 10 years working on those holes, or I could just find someone who has a really good marketing brain and then I just handle the stuff that I'm good at, and then you handle that part. And I think like us working together allows us to build a lot faster, number one, but two, like it's just more enjoyable. Like I heard this quote from someone, this guy named Clayton Mask. He said this to me. So this is like, I was going through this mode of like, I'm not working with nobody. Like I think there's the longest time when you and I didn't work together or talk, which was like a month. But during that month, I was like, I'm not working with anybody. I'm doing this all myself. I'm going to go the solopreneur Justin Welch route and go super lean. And then I'm just going to do it all myself. And then I heard Clayton say this thing, and it completely changed everything. He said, if your dream doesn't require a team, your dream isn't big enough. And I was like, shit. Like, I was doing this thing where I was limiting, like I was like putting a governor on how far I wanted to go. So that way I could avoid the pain of like what we did before and having a huge team. But we could still do pretty darn well with just the two of us. So anyway, what is your experience been in partnering versus kind of doing it yourself? And then I guess maybe what advice you'd give people that haven't considered doing it.
Well, rolling into this business, like I said, when I had the juice shop, we had a staff, and it was like we had to, like I couldn't do it all on my own. And it was awful for me because I just wasn't a good manager because I couldn't really hold people accountable because I wanted to be nice, like all those types of things. So when I rolled into this, I was like, I am never hiring anybody ever again. And it's so different, like when you're just starting out versus I've been doing this for 5 years now, this specific business. And then I'd hire the person on Fiverr. I'd try this, nothing really stuck. And almost to your point where I think I like held myself, and I think entrepreneurs do this all the time, especially women. Gonna call you out, is that we think we need to like learn something new to be able to do what we want to do. Like, okay, I'm gonna take this course on this specific topic because then I'll be ready. Then I'll be ready to move forward. So that was me for a really long time, where I said, like, now I'm like, no, I know my shit. I know what I need to know. And I tell people that I need to start believing it. That's one side of it. The other big thing that changed this year is I really played around with the, in the woo of like, what if I all of a sudden was making this much money? What would that look like? And then it started to happen. And I was like, holy shit, I cannot do this by myself. And with the work that you and I were doing, because I felt like it was very much, there's two spheres. There's like one of hiring help to fill the holes like you can't do. Having, bringing on team members to, for me, contract out like that service piece of work, or, AI too really has like, I think the reason I've gotten so far is because AI has done so much for me. Like I didn't have to hire a copywriter because I had, a copywriter, an assistant, all those things. But with you, it's different in the partnership aspect, is it's like, it comes from a different angle, not like I don't know, I'm gonna get this right, not like a linear, where it's like levels of like, hey, can you complete this work in a strategy and a process I've already created? With you and I, it's more like coming at it eye to eye of like, okay, I've got this, and I come from this angle, you get it, and you come from that angle. And I think for the two of us for so long, we're like, wow, you're really good at, the sales side of it, pitches. Like you literally could, what is that saying? Sell ice to... Where it's like, I would be like, sir, can I get you a glass of water? Like I would miss the mark completely, but then I could, market the shit out of it. So for me, I don't feel like I could have gotten where I am today without working with you in that aspect. Not in it was a mind shift, I think, for both of us. Instead of it being like, oh, here's contract some work for me to do for this client, it's more like, how can we bring our brains together, and instead of working linear, like really expand into different areas.
Yeah.
How was
like,
that?
I think that's perfect. And that's why this one's a little bit different. For those that are curious, and you've made it this far in the podcast, obviously you probably dig our vibe a little bit. And I'll put it in the description because it's the kind of the V1 of it. But this new offer we're launching is kind of the sales process audit, where we'll take a look at the marketing, obviously your goal and what you want versus the delta where you're currently at, and then find the holes in your marketing and your sales process that's causing you not to actually hit that thing. In the past, it would be, I would make the audit, and I think this is what you're saying, and this is the major difference. In the past, I would say, this is the audit. At least I'm contracting you to do this part of the audit.
Yeah.
Whereas today, the difference is I'm saying, this is the part that I'm good at. I'll handle this. I trust you to handle that part. However you think it needs to be done, because I don't know, like, you're going to come at it a lot better than I am. And so again, I'm not worrying about how we're going to do that part of the audit, because I have the right who, and that kind of changed everything. So we went from, again, you're my employee, to like, we're just tackling this shit together, and then we're going to co-create this thing until it's like exactly dialed in the way we want it to be. But I think, again, the reason I brought this up is I think there's a lot of people that I meet that when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, how do I get to that next level? I'm like, you're not going to do it by yourself. Like, if you want it in the next couple of years. And here's the thing, I made this post on Thread the other day, on Threads, and I said, because there's so much content out there about the solopreneur route that like the Justin Welches of the world took. Hey, I made $4.7 million in the last few years being by myself and running a newsletter and not having any employees. If that's what, and I work 2 hours a day, that's like the new thing, right? I work 2 hours a day and I make $1 billion.
Yeah.
If that's the route that you want to go, there's nothing wrong with that. What I don't appreciate, though, is you getting on Threads or social media and telling me, because I am obsessed about what I do and I like to work all day, that like, that's a problem. Like, no, man, you can get to the same outcome both different ways. And again, going back to the Clayton Mask quote, my dream's a lot bigger than I work 2 hours a day and I make X amount of money. Like, I'm sure there'll come a time where, I don't know when, but it's like, hey, I value that more than anything. But I just like, the more than anything, I think about, like Dan Sullivan talks about in the 10Xs and the 2X, the difference between the freedom to versus the freedom from. So like the freedom, most people create, let's say the 2 hour business, whatever, they want the freedom from working in a 9 to 5, not working a lot. They want the freedom from being broke. They want the freedom from being told what to do, all that stuff, versus I'm creating this stuff from the aspect of like the freedom to create. I love when like I give you those calls every once in a while and I'm like, hey, I just sold this thing and I don't know what it is yet. I just kind of sold it, and let's figure out it's the freedom to be creative and then like come up with offers and like figure that stuff out. But yeah, to me anyway, I've tested and experienced the whole solopreneur thing, and then I think about like those years being by myself, just in this office by myself all day, every day, and it's just boring. It's way more fun to do it with people.
Yeah, I think my experience doing things on my own, like, it's very much the freedom from, freedom to, and it's like I've learned that I enjoy creating. I like doing the carousel posts, whatever, or like learning a new AI tech, exploring things that way. I'll always be working. Like, the dream really isn't like, oh, I only have to work 2 hours a day. Like, I don't know what I do with the rest of my time. I like doing this stuff. That's why we're sitting here on a Sunday doing it, because we enjoy the process. And like, I'm really starting to think bigger picture of like, okay, in 10 years, what do I want to be doing? Do I want to be cutting up videos for clients? No. Well, guess what? I can find somebody to do that for me. Or circle back to AI. AI can do all that stuff for you, and not because it's the only route, but it's like, that for me is not what I like. That does not fill my bucket. And so if I can create a business that allows me to do the things I love, fill my bucket whilst helping people, it's like, then I've made it. For me, then I've made it. Otherwise, like I said, I don't know what would I fill my day? Like playing pickleball or something? Like, I'm not, no shade, I like pickleball, but
Yeah.
And I think like, especially for us working together, it's just, and this offer specifically it's that bridge between the two. And I think helping businesses, right, is at the root of it, but it like sparks so much curiosity, because what we're really trying to do is, okay, everybody's been doing the same thing the same way for years, but because of new tech like AI, that is completely shifted. How does your business now fit into this new box? Or how can we take what you're doing and elevate it and, save you time, money, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's, for us, it's really fun because it's literally putting the puzzle pieces together. You take the bucket, you dump the puzzle pieces out, and then I slowly start trying to put it together.
Well, because again, like whenever I do it by myself, I take a look at a sales process, right? And then it's like, all right, well, you're not getting your problem, for example, is like your show rate's really low on your sales call. All right, well, here's some things you could do. But if the leads you're bringing in is shit,
yes,
that's a problem. But then I would just say, hey, go fix that. Go talk to someone about that. Whereas now, today, you can come in and go, hey, and this is how we're going to bring better quality leads. And then this is the funnel that's going to drive them there. And then that way, what I do, or the flip side, right? Like there's a lot of businesses that we're working with that bring in a crap ton of leads, but they can't sell worth a damn. And so it's like, all right, well, how do I do this? Well, here you go. Anyway, I'm excited for, we'll obviously probably do this podcast more often together, and kind of talk about maybe behind the scenes of how it's going. But I'm pretty stoked about it. Is there anything else you want to throw in here before we wrap up? And obviously, I'll tell people where to go get the tools we mentioned during this episode.
Yeah. No, I think the biggest thing that I tell people is like, just get in there and play. Like every question you have, just start getting used to using chat, because it can do so much for you that you haven't even thought about. So it's mostly just like, have the openness to shift your mind, not from like, oh, I've got to do this thing, how am I going to figure that out? Go ask chat. Like from the most basic level of questions, right? Even like, how do I bring all this together? Well, ask ChatGPT to help you find clarity on how to bring it together. It just is such an incredible resource that I get people get scared of change and stuff, but it it's like anything, you can use it for good or you can use it for evil. And if it can help you create and bring more of what your passion is to the world and help people, like, that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as always, I appreciate you, Elisa. This is fun.
I appreciate you too.
For those who are listening, and there's a couple things I put in the description. Obviously, I put the link to the newsletter. I'm going to put Elisa's marketing matrix that you should absolutely download. I don't know why I said that twice. And then obviously, I'll put a link to the audit. If you want to check it out, do that. The fun part about the audit, and this is a good testament to, depending on when you look at it, my done is better than perfect. When you click on the link, I don't even think there's going to be an image there. I think it's just this is going to be a really basic detail of what it does. But yeah, anyway, go check it out, and thank you for listening, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.